But first, we want to talk about those ongoing protests that have been happening in our area and across the country. I can tell you from last night, not one person was arrested in Jacksonville for violating the city's curfew. And now Mayor Lenny Curry says there will not be another curfew tonight. But he said on Twitter that that could change if the situation changes. Meanwhile, demonstrators are back out in the streets of downtown Jacksonville, and that's where we find our David Jones, who's joining us live tonight. David.
Hey, good evening. That group of protesters just made their way down west on Adams Street. We're in front of the Duval County Courthouse. If you're watching our reports here yesterday evening, this is where many of those arrests for unlawful assembly took place. Police coming in, boxing in protesters right here in this spot in front of the Duval County Courthouse and making all of those arrests for unlawful assembly. Shortly after that, just about an hour and a half before 8 o'clock last night, is when that curfew was announced. We wanted to dig into the legality of that curfew and why it was imposed in the first place.
Everybody was really quiet, calm, just speaking their piece.
We obtained the emergency order issued by Mayor Lenny Curry after protests on Sunday. In it, the mayor notes violence on Saturday night. Several police officers attacked, one being stabbed, vandalism of both public and private property. About Sunday's events, though, the order only reads, quote, additional protests were held. Jacksonville City Code allows the mayor to declare a state of civil emergency. Under that declaration, a curfew can be imposed. But before a civil emergency can be declared, there has to be, quote, an act of violence or a flagrant and substantial defiance of or resistance to a lawful exercise of public authority. That act of violence leading to, quote, a clear and present danger of a riot or other general public disorder, widespread disobedience of the law, and substantial injury to persons or property.
I've never seen one where there wasn't a clear and present danger of a riot or other general public disorder or widespread disobedience. Those are subjective, vague terms to some extent, but where was the widespread disobedience?
Sunday's protests were overall peaceful. At points, protesters did spill into the streets. At the Main Street Bridge, protesters telling us they were pepper sprayed by police. Some arrests were made there. After looping back to the courthouse, dozens of state and local law enforcement boxed in the protesters, ordering them to disperse, then quickly making a number of arrests on scene. And more than 50 arrests were made on Sunday, many of those, again, for unlawful assembly, many here in front of the Duval County Courthouse. You can see this crowd walking south now on Broad Street, circling back. Many young people in the crowd, many 20-somethings, many local 20-somethings saying that they want to be the generation to make change. We did reach out to the mayor's office to ask why this curfew was imposed on Sunday after largely peaceful protests and not on Saturday night. I'll read part of that statement. Quote, the mayor's decision to implement a curfew on Sunday night was informed by the advice of these professionals, talking about the sheriff's office and law enforcement, to prevent the violence, vandalism, and destruction of property that took place on Saturday evening. We're live in downtown Jacksonville. David Jones, First Coast News, on your side.